the morning of August 8, 1941. Arrives over the Ukrainian countryside with a quiet that feels almost dishonest. Dew clings to the tall grass along the Odessa perimeter. Insects move through the warm air. Somewhere behind the Soviet lines, bread is being distributed. Men talk in low voices. A field medic wraps a blister. 400 meters away, through the trembling lens of a telescopic sight, two German officers stand near a staff vehicle leaning over a map. Their voices carry faintly across the open ground. They are not afraid. Why would they be? They have swept through this country like a tide. Nothing has stopped them yet. Then, one shot. Silence. A second shot, 3 seconds later. Both men are down. The shooter lowers her rifle, checks the wind, marks 2 entries in her logbook, and waits. Her name is Lyudmila Pavlichenko. She is 25 years old. She is a history student, and she has just begun a body of work that will make her the most lethal female sniper in the recorded history of warfare. 309 confirmed kills across 2 of the bloodiest sieges on the Eastern Front, including 36 trained German snipers sent specifically to eliminate her. The Germans will come to know her by a name they whisper with a different kind of respect: Lady Death. This is how she earned it, and what it cost her. She was not a soldier. She was a historian. Born in 1916 in Belaya Tserkov, a city south of Kiev, Pavlichenko moved with her family to the Ukrainian capital at age 14. She was athletic, fiercely competitive, and constitutionally incapable of being outdone by anyone, especially boys. That impulse led her almost by accident to a sharpshooter's range near her school, where a neighbor was bragging about his scores. She decided to prove a point. She kept going back. By the time she enrolled at Kiev University's history faculty in 1937, she had completed a 2-year course at the Oso Aviakim Sniper School, graduating with exceptional marks in practical shooting and firearms mechanics. She was not preparing for war. She was preparing for a teaching career. The sniper training was, to her, simply another competition she intended to win. Then, Operation Barbarossa began. On June 22, 1941, Germany violated its non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union and launched one of the largest military invasions in history. 3 million Axis soldiers, thousands of tanks, planes, and artillery pieces flooded into Ukraine in the span of hours. Pavlichenko was walking to class when the first fighter planes came in low over Kyiv. She went to the nearest recruiting office that same day. The recruiter told her she should consider nursing. She pulled out her sniper's diploma, her Voroshilov marksman's badge, and her shooting certifications, and laid them on the desk. She was assigned to the 25th Rifle Division as a sniper, one of roughly 2,000 Soviet women who would serve in that role during the war. Only about 500 of those 2,000 would survive, a 75% casualty rate. She would be one of the lucky ones, though luck is perhaps the wrong word for what carried her through. Odessa, summer 1941, a port city on the Black Sea, encircled and under siege. The perimeter contracts daily. Soviet defenders hold a tightening ring around the city as Romanian and German forces press from every direction. Pavlichenko operates in pairs, as all Soviet snipers do. 2 shooters depart before dawn, by 3:30 in the morning in summer. One pair occupies one position. Another pair takes cover 300 to 400 meters away. No talking, no movement, no smoking, nothing. The wait can last 10 hours, sometimes more. Her rifle at this stage is a Mosin Nagant bolt action, the standard Soviet sniper's weapon. She will later favor the semi-automatic SVT-40 for its speed in counter-sniper duels. But for now, one careful shot at a time. Her first 2 confirmed kills came near Belayevka in August of 1941. 2 German officers at 400 meters. By October, with Odessa falling and her unit transferred south to Sevastopol, she had recorded 187 kills. Her first 100 had come within a single month. 100 kills, 31 days. The numbers are almost incomprehensible until you understand the terrain. The flat, exposed approaches to Odessa gave a patient shooter extraordinary range. German and Romanian forces advanced through open ground in visible formations. And Pavlichenko, who had spent years learning to read distance, wind, and light, was not there to feel heroic. She was there to work. Her commanding officers noticed something unusual. She did not shoot impulsively. She waited for the highest value targets: officers, communications men, artillery spotters. She understood, perhaps because she was a student of history, that removing a single coordinating officer could cost the enemy far more than a rifleman. But Odessa was falling. When Romanian forces entered the city in mid-October of 1941, her unit was evacuated by sea to the Crimean Peninsula. The second siege was already waiting. Sevastopol, late 1941 into the spring of 1942, a fortified port city on the tip of Crimea. The Axis forces have surrounded it on 3 sides. The Red Army holds on. By the time Pavlichenko arrives, she is already becoming something the German command cannot ignore. They tried to bribe her first. Messages came over radio loudspeakers across the lines. Lyudmila Pavlichenko, come over to us. We will give you plenty of chocolate and make you a German officer. She did not respond. The bribes became threats. Radio broadcasts warned her that they would tear her into 309 pieces. She reportedly told fellow soldiers she was only glad. They had her count right. In Sevastopol, the nature of her war changes. The Germans begin dispatching trained counter-snipers, decorated marksmen whose sole assignment is to locate and eliminate her. These are not ordinary soldiers sent into the field. These are specialists, sent because nothing else has worked. Pavlichenko won every duel she fought. One engagement lasted 3 days, during which she held her position for 15 to 20 hours at a stretch. Still, patient, calculating. Of the 36 enemy snipers she ultimately eliminated, several were known to carry medals from the Western Front. She described her method this way. She would study the pattern of an opponent's shots over multiple days, mapping the angle, the timing, the small disturbances in vegetation or dust that betrayed a position. When the moment came, she had already accounted for the morning light. One opponent, she said afterward, had made one move too many. It is in Sevastopol that her personal story deepens. Leonid Kitsenko, a fellow sniper from her unit, had been her operational partner for months. By early 1942, he was also her husband. The two worked the Sevastopol lines together through what German records called the Winter Crisis. Fellow soldiers noted that after Kitsenko was killed by enemy fire in the spring of 1942, Pavlichenko's manner changed. Quieter, harder, more focused. She vowed to reach 300 kills. Within days, she had. Here is where the mathematics catch up with the body. In June of 1942, Pavlichenko was struck in the face by shrapnel from a mortar shell. It was her 4th wound of the war. The Soviet High Command made a decision. She was too valuable to risk losing in the field. She was evacuated from the Sevastopol Peninsula by submarine. Her final confirmed tally stood at 309. Among them, 36 enemy snipers, approximately 100 officers. Historians who have studied the records suggest her actual total was likely higher. Soviet sniper protocol required an independent witness to confirm each kill. Unwitnessed shots were not counted. The real number may be closer to 500. She never returned to combat. The Soviet government moved quickly. A woman with 309 confirmed kills, who had survived 4 wounds, outlasted every specialist sent to eliminate her, and fought through 2 full sieges, was exactly what the state needed the world to see. She was pulled from the front lines and handed a different kind of mission. And if you've come this far with this story, what came next is the chapter most people never hear about. Stay with it. On August 27, 1942, Lyudmila Pavlichenko became the first Soviet citizen to be received at the White House. She met President Franklin Roosevelt briefly. Then Eleanor Roosevelt pulled her aside. The First Lady was fascinated and deeply moved. Here was a 25-year-old woman who had done what no American woman had ever been permitted to do in wartime, and had done it better than almost any man alive. Eleanor arranged for Pavlichenko to join an extended tour of the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom to rally public support for opening a second front against Germany. The American press did not know how to write about her. Reporters asked about her hairstyle, about her uniform, whether she used makeup in the field, whether Soviet women were issued brassieres. Pavlichenko, whose English was limited, but whose patience was more limited still, endured it for a time. Then, at a rally in Chicago, facing thousands, "I am 25 years old and I have killed 309 fascist invaders by now. Don't you think, gentlemen, that you have been hiding behind my back for too long?" The room went silent. Then it erupted. The United States government presented her with a Colt semi-automatic pistol. Canada gave her a Winchester Model 70 with a telescopic sight, now on display at Moscow's Central Armed Forces Museum. Woody Guthrie, the folk singer whose guitar bore the words "This machine kills fascists," wrote a song in her honor, called Miss Pavlichenko. But underneath the applause, something else was accumulating, quieter, harder to name. Eleanor Roosevelt and Lyudmila Pavlichenko wrote to each other for years after the tour ended. They exchanged letters about family, books, and the politics of peace. When Eleanor visited Moscow in 1957, at the height of the Cold War, with a Soviet government handler present, the two managed to slip away from supervision, to laugh, to catch up, to remember the summer they had spent crossing America together. That is a detail that belongs in a different kind of war story. Pavlichenko completed her studies at Kiev University after the war. She became a historian, as she had always intended. She worked as a senior researcher for the Soviet Navy. She received the Hero of the Soviet Union Medal, the highest military honor the state could confer. She also carried the war home with her. For years after her discharge, she struggled with what we would now recognize as post-traumatic stress.
And
the accumulated weight of what she had seen,
yes, I can imagine.
what she had done,
and then we knew we had to push forward.
what she had lost. The rifle was put down. The memories were not. She died in Moscow on October 10th, 1974, at the age of 58. 309 confirmed kills, 2 commemorative Soviet postage stamps, 1 issued while she was still alive, a friendship with an American First Lady that somehow survived the Cold War, and one question she never stopped answering, in speeches and interviews, until the end of her life. Why did you do it? Her answer never changed. The war had come to her country. The men at the recruiting office had told her to be a nurse. She had chosen differently. The German army broadcast her name across the front lines. They offered her chocolate and a commission. They threatened to tear her apart. None of it worked, because she was not fighting for the recognition. She was fighting because someone had to, and she happened to be very, very good at it. History has a way of recording the names of men who fought. Lyudmila Pavlichenko made sure her name would be recorded anyway. If this story moved you, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we bring you the full story behind the battles that history textbooks flatten into a single paragraph. Lady Death deserves more than a paragraph.